Earlier today, I spoke with California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna. Let's listen. Congressman, the deal is done in the Senate. You are unhappy. How unhappy are you and why?
Well, I'm unhappy because people's health care premiums are going to spike. Yesterday, when I was at Fort Worth Airport waiting 6 hours because of all the delays, someone came up running to me and he said, "Look, my father's insurance in Arizona, who's a cab driver, is going to go up from $44 a month to $2,600 a month. That is outrageous. The Democrats should have fought for some help for that taxi driver and for 20 million people around America like that."
How much of this do you put at the feet of Charles Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate?
Most of it. I mean, he's the leader of the Senate. This deal would never have happened if he had not blessed it. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of other senators who are saying that they kept Senator Schumer in the loop the whole time. Look, I've worked with Senator Schumer. He did an incredible job on the CHIPS Act, on the IRA, on infrastructure, but it's time for him to be replaced. He is not meeting the moment. He's out of touch with where the party's base is.
Congressman, you know all shutdowns end, and if Republicans were adamant, as they said they were, that they were never going to negotiate over the health care part of this debate until the government was reopened, what other alternative was there?
Well, I don't think that they would have been intransigent on that. Michael Lawler, a Republican, was floating the possibility of a one-year extension to the Affordable Care Act tax credits. So we wanted a permanent tax credit extension, but could we have gotten 1 year or 6 months? I think so, especially when Donald Trump was reeling. He said that he lost the election because of the shutdown. He was putting pressure on them to get rid of the filibuster. Frankly, we should have at least had them get rid of the filibuster. That would have been a better option. But here we got nothing. And here's the point. Obviously, Senator Schumer entered this thinking that the Republicans were not going to be intransigent. Why else make the Affordable Care Act the purpose of the fight if you thought there was no chance of success?
You mentioned being at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Was a prolonged shutdown, meaning 45 days, 50 days, 55 days, going to be worth it, that damage and disruption to American travel over the Thanksgiving holidays, over this healthcare issue? You were willing to go that far?
I believe we could have gotten a deal before Thanksgiving that would have had some extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, or that would have forced Donald Trump to say, let's get rid of the filibuster. And then the Republicans could vote with 51 Republican senators in the House to do that. What I don't understand is why we are the ones who abandoned a lot of the working class folks who are going to see their premiums go up and didn't put up the fight. That's really what's frustrating. I do think this could have gotten resolved still before the Thanksgiving weekend.
Does it astonish you, Congressman, that after Tuesday's election results, when Democrats did feel emboldened for the first time in a calendar year, this is the result?
It disappoints me. It perplexes me. I guess I just don't understand why we have a group of people who are so out of touch with where our party's base is. They just came out in record numbers to give a win to Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill and Zohran Mamdani. They said, look, Democrats, we want you to stand up to this administration's lawlessness. We want you to stand up for health care. We want you to stand up for working families. We want you to show fight for people against a system that is not working. And we disappointed them. Now, can we recover? Yes. I think that the first step to recovering is to have generational change and new leadership. Someone referred to me as a backbencher, calling for the Senate Majority Leader to step down. And I don't take those things personally. Some people were coming saying, "Oh, Khanna is not a backbencher." But my point was, those of us in the back need to come to the front. It's time for a new generation of leadership for this party and this country.
On that point, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, do you believe he withstands this through this year and all of next year? There's not a scheduled election, as you know, Congressman, until after the midterms. Leadership election.
Look, he's going to make his own decision. I doubt I'm on his call list, but if he were to call, what I would say, Senator, we've worked together on the CHIPS Act. I've praised you many times when you have done things that have moved the country forward, but you're not meeting this moment. And I think it's time for someone else to lead in the Senate. And you should serve out the remainder of your term with dignity and working on the issues you care about. I think Speaker Pelosi provides a great model for a graceful way to cap out a career.
I've talked to some Democrats today, Congressman, who have heard from those in the institutional support base, the partisan support base of the Democratic Party. And there is conversation today about a donor boycott because there is so much fury over this deal. Do you believe that will manifest?
I don't know. I do know that the activist base is the one that it really wants a new leadership. I mean, obviously Chuck Schumer has a lot of donors and as a formidable fundraiser, and my guess is that the donor opinion is split. But we need to, as a party, stop listening so much to the donor base. Not that you can't listen to people who contribute, but we're overly focused on that, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're disconnected from grassroots politics.
Democratic California Congressman Ro Khanna, appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Takeout. Welcome to the Conversation Corner. 52 days ago, that was the last time the House was in session and cast a vote of any kind. Tonight, many House members are heading back to Washington per the order of House Speaker Mike Johnson. I'm joined now by California Democratic Congressman Jimmy Gomez. Congressman, your district's in L.A. I want to give my audience a little bit of your biography. You went to community college when you started your educational journey. You worked at a Subway and a Target. Before you got into state and federal politics, you were a union organizer and union political operative. With all that as a background,
Correct.
How does this shutdown deal, negotiated by 7 Senate Democrats and 1 Senate independent, land with you?
Well, I think it's one of the weakest deals I've ever seen in my life because they didn't get really anything in return. One of the things I've said from the beginning, since the beginning of this year, when everybody was deflated and wondering what the direction of the Democrats would be, I said you have a simple strategy: show up and fight, organize, 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 and then stall or stop the Republican agenda. And that's how we win the American people back, because they want to see us fighting for them, for the working class, fighting every single day. But you got to show up and fight. And this capitulation of these 7, 8 senators shows that they still don't understand the moment we're in. And the moment we're in is that we're fighting for the future of not only our country, but the future of working people. And they want to see us lay everything on the line. They don't care if you lose every single vote. They want to see you put up a fight. Nobody roots for a boxer that says no mas or a team that walks off the field. You got to put up a fight. They put up a fight for 52 days, and then they capitulated at the last minute and still didn't get anything. It doesn't make sense to me. They should have held out. My district told us to hold on, not to capitulate, not to give up, and they appreciated the fight, because that's what this is about, because they know that Donald Trump and Republicans don't care about them.
So if I hear you correctly, Congressman, you would have been prepared, and you believe Democrats in Washington should have been prepared to fight, even if it meant a completely chaotic Thanksgiving travel season and the suspension of SNAP benefits, because the administration went to the Supreme Court to make sure lower court orders providing those benefits were not lived up to.
There's a thing I learned early on: you don't negotiate with legislative terrorists. And one of the things you have with Donald Trump and Republicans, they're definitely legislative terrorists. They don't care if they're going to shoot the hostages or the American people. They don't care what kind of pain they put them in. When it comes to the ACA subsidies increasing on top of the cost of living increasing, or the fact that they attacked SNAP over the last year. The American people know that the Republicans don't care about helping the working class. That one, they cut $200 billion out of SNAP in the one big beautiful bill. They canceled 92 million pounds of food that was already heading to food banks, that was already paid for, that would have fed 12 million people. the American people know that the Republicans keep selling them out for their donors and their largest supporters. So when we push back, they know why we're pushing back. They know that Democrats care about them. They care about the working people. So as long as we keep focused on what this is about, which is the average man or woman on the street struggling to get by, people who want to see their kids do better, then we're going to win those fights. And here's the thing: why now? Why after 52 days? We were still a few days out from Thanksgiving. So one of the things I want to say is that my constituents, I was at a food bank handing out food, and people were still telling me, keep up the fight.
This is working its way through the Senate. When it gets to the House later this week, do you expect it to pass, even though you'll be a no?
Not sure, because we don't really know where the Republicans are, right? You had Mike Lawler, Margie Taylor Greene, a bunch of them saying they should do something about the expiring ACA subsidies that were increasing the cost of health insurance in their own districts. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I suspect Donald Trump will twist some arms and make sure that the Republicans get on board. But here's the thing: those ACA subsidies expiring disproportionately impact states, red states that never expanded Medicaid. So they're going to feel it even more. So I think this is bad news for them, even if they are able to pass the CR to get the government open.
I've heard several Democrats tell me today, Congressman, I'd like your opinion of this. We had to end this at one point or another. We elevated the issue of health care. That's a net benefit for us. No one's going to remember about who won or lost this shutdown 3 months from now. We need to move on.
Well, I think one of the things we did do was bring attention to these ACA subsidies. When I say show up and fight, organize, install the Republican agenda, it's to bring the attention of the American people to what's going on in Washington. If not, things happen in the dead of the night, and then Republicans try to blame Democrats. So this fight did bring attention to the fact that the ACA subsidies are expiring, their cost of living is going to go up, that Republicans are using SNAP against them, and Mike Johnson is delaying the swearing in of Alita Grajava to prevent her signing the discharge petition to bring out the Epstein files. So one of the things it did do was bring attention. You know, in the end, who knows? I'm not in the room with the senators, but I would have been fighting every step of the way if I was in those rooms to get the Republicans to come to our side, to get them to cave. But we will never know what would happen if this would have lasted maybe a few more days. So nobody can really truly say that this is what had to happen and this is when the time it had to happen. They could have still played it out a few more days.
Congressman Jimmy Gomez, Democrat, Los Angeles. Appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Of course.
Earlier, I spoke with California Democratic Congressman Mike Levin about the shutdown and related matters. Take a listen. The House will vote tomorrow on the Senate-passed compromise. Congressman, are you yes or no?
I'm a hard no, Major, and I am really disappointed that this bill that is coming to the House does nothing to address the looming healthcare crisis for millions and millions of people, many of whom I spoke with in these past weeks back in the district in San Diego. Their healthcare premiums in some cases are tripling or even worse. I spoke to a 62-year-old retired teacher who is trying to figure out whether he needs to take early Social Security to pay for the $700 a month in new healthcare costs. I spoke to another working mom whose bills are going to double, self-employed, for her and her family, up to over $55,000 a year. So this bill does nothing to address this. It's incredibly disappointing, and I'll be a firm no.
Do you suspect it will pass?
If the past is any prologue, then what happened in March could happen again, which is the bill passes on a purely partisan vote with little or no Democratic support. I've learned not to bet on anything happening in D.C., but if I had to tell you one way or the other, I think it will pass on a highly partisan, if not completely partisan basis.
On this program last night, one of your California delegation Democratic colleagues, Ro Khanna, said it is time for Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, to go. Do you agree?
Well, it's up to the Senate, but I said if I were, a Senate Democrat, I think it's time for new leadership, yes. And I think at the end of the day, Schumer did not meet this moment. I think he either could not or would not keep his caucus united. And I don't know which of the two it is, but in any event, it's a real problem, Major. And you contrast it within the House, where Hakeem Jeffries and Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, they kept us incredibly unified in the House. And I'm very proud to be a member of the House Democratic Caucus.
If you are asked, will you be honest with your constituents and say this deal is something in which the Democrats who fought all this time got nothing?
What I will tell them is that it's important that we have the government open, but it's also important that we address the healthcare needs of millions of people. And this bill failed to do that. So absolutely, I'll be honest about what was and what wasn't in this bill. There are 3 Senate appropriations bills in there for important things for our region, like military construction and veterans affairs. Interestingly, I'm an appropriator, and I'm supposed to be on the conference committee that's supposed to take that Senate bill and the partisan bill that passed in the House and reconcile the two. But that process has not occurred, nor do I expect it to occur. When I was put on that conference committee, I remember asking our ranking member in the House, is it a real conference committee or a fake conference committee? Seems to be a fake conference committee. But the so-called deal leaves so much to be desired. And of course, now we have learned that it includes some ridiculous provisions to help Republican senators who want to sue and get money for having their phone records investigated by Jack Smith in connection with January 6th. So, you know, what else are we going to learn about what's in this thing? From what we know, it's a raw deal. It's bad for the American people who are really needing help and are in a very hard spot when it comes to the cost of living. And healthcare costs are a huge concern for millions and millions of people. And again, for the Republicans, they really have no plan other than to put everybody on high deductible junk plans. And Trump, you know, saying that he wants to give money back to the average person. Where's their Doge refund check? Where's the tariff refund check? You know, it's preposterous. It's not going to happen.
What adjectives would you use, Congressman, to describe the Senate Democrats who did vote for this deal?
Disappointing. You know, I think it was capitulation. And the lesson I also took from it, Major, is that this past Tuesday, we had huge victories across the country, in California, of course, with Prop 50, but in New Jersey and Virginia and Pennsylvania. And I think the lesson that I took from that is that we need to stand and fight for the things that matter to the average person. We were sent to Washington, D.C. to fight for people who need the help, whether on health care or on so many other things. Meanwhile, you had the administration withholding food for those in need, using whatever leverage they could, literally using people's hunger as leverage. Every available piece of evidence suggested that more Americans blamed President Trump and the House and Senate Republicans for the state of affairs as opposed to the Democrats. I think that those senators that voted yes on this should have known better.
Mike Levin, Congressman from California, Democrat. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Good to be with you. Thank you, Major.